Hi, I'm Scott. Welcome to Synth Stuff. Today I've got all the synths actually covered up. I haven't uncovered them because we're not going to be talking about synthesizers at all. Today we're going to be talking about a problem that involves your iPad or phone or tablet, and it comes because I got an emergency call last night from a friend of mine who was about to do a show and was in serious trouble. Coming up. So I get this call last night about 7:30 from a friend of mine, and she was panicking. She uses an iPad, a tablet, to do the backing tracks for her show. She was setting up. She realized that her iPad had only about 20% battery, no problem. She brought a charger. She plugged in the charger, and the iPad came up and said, unable to charge, moisture in the charging port. If you have a cell phone, and who doesn't these days, you've probably seen this message before. So maybe you got a drop of water or some rain in your charging port and now it won't charge, and you got a little bit of an inconvenience until it dries out and then it'll work again, if you're lucky. However, if you're not lucky, this problem recurs over and over again, and I'm going to explain why. And if you're really unlucky, you are depending on your iPad to do the backing tracks for your show that starts in 1 hour, and how are you going to get your device working? So let's first talk about why this happens and why, if it happens, it's probably going to keep happening over and over again. So why do we even care if there's moisture in the charging port? Well, there's a lot more than just a couple wires in there charging. There's all kinds of communication wires. If you look at the inside of a charging cable, there's actually a ton of little connectors in there. Some of those connectors are for transferring power to charge the battery. Some of them are for communication. So what happens when you plug in the charger, it's not just sending power like it used to. Back in the early days of USB charging, you just had 5 volts, you plugged it in, it stuffed 5 volts into your phone, and the phone just stopped accepting it when it was full. That's not how phones work anymore. The phone and the charger actually communicate. So you plug it in, and what happens is the phone says, hey, I see there's a charger. What kind of charging capabilities can you offer me? And the charger says, well, I can offer you 5 volts at such and such amps, or 9 volts or 12 volts super fast charging. The phone says, yep, I support that. Send me 12 volts. And the charger says, here you go, here's 12 volts. And then the phone says, okay, got it. And it takes that 12 volts and then it uses it to charge the battery. When the phone is full, it stops and tells the charger, hey, no more power, and that's that. Now what happens is the phone will say, okay, send the power, and the charger starts sending the power to the phone or the tablet, and the phone starts seeing power on pins other than the power pins. It's seeing it on the communication pins and so on, where they should not be seeing power at all. The phone says, whoa, 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 stop, turn off the power, something's wrong. And usually what it is moisture that's bridging one or more pins inside the socket in the phone that is allowing current to flow from the power pins into the communication pins where it should not be, and so the phone shuts off everything to protect itself. The first thing to try is obviously another cable if you have one, because it could be, especially with the USB-C, that the actual moisture is inside the plug, not the phone. So if that's the case, sometimes a new cable will solve the issue. Usually not though. Why do we even care about water being in the port? Water itself, actually, contrary to popular belief, is a really poor conductor of electricity. Distilled water, just pure water, does not conduct much electricity at all. A tiny bit, but not much. However, minerals and salts, especially sodium chloride, that normally live in our water, is highly conductive, especially salt. And so if you have water that is salty in your port, then you are going to have serious problems, because it's basically shorting out the pins inside your port. How do you get salty water? Where does salty water come from? Well, it comes from you. If you've got this thing stuffed in your pocket and you're sweating, you got salty water all through this area of your phone or your tablet, and guess what? That's conductive. Now you've also got this in your pocket, and you've got dust and all kinds of crud also going up in there. If you ever take a microscope or a very high-powered magnifying glass and have a look inside the charging port of your phone, it's disgusting. There's all kinds of dust and crud and stuff in there. And dust comes from your clothes. Your clothes shed fibers, it goes in there, and now you add some salty, sweaty water that also goes in there that gets those fibers wet, and it just holds on to that moisture and shorts everything out, and now your thing won't charge. You can leave it to dry, but it's going to take quite a while, and if the ambient humidity is high, it's going to take a really long while to dry, and it's only going to happen again because those fibers are still in there. So how do we fix this? This is what I told my friend last night, and this is what I do myself when I encounter this problem. What we have to do is get the water and the fibers out of there. We need to clean that port out in a safe fashion. So what I use is alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, and you want this pure anhydrous alcohol. This is 99.9%. In a pinch, you can use the 91% stuff that you can get at the drugstore, but I prefer the pure anhydrous. Anhydrous means no hydrogen or water, so basically no water inside alcohol. And why do we care about that? Because alcohol is hydrophilic. Hydrophobic means it sheds water, like oil is hydrophobic. Oil and water don't mix. Alcohol is hydrophilic, which means alcohol and water do mix. They mix very readily, which is why alcohol in gasoline is such a bad thing. Our ethanol-enhanced gasoline attracts moisture out of the air and condenses it into our fuel, and you get water. And another whole story I don't want to get into. So if you buy that 70% alcohol that you can get at the drugstore, the 30% that's not alcohol, that's water. We don't want to be using that because that's just going to make the problem worse. We don't want to be using water-filled alcohol to clean our phone. We're counting on the fact that this is pure alcohol, and the alcohol has a strong affinity for water to help us clear at the port. So what we're going to do is simply spray this into the charging port. It's not going to hurt the device because those charging ports are actually sealed. It's not going to go up inside the device or the phone. So this is really good because it's pressurized. You can spray it right in there, and you just put the tube in there, spray it into the port. That's it. Now you can see on here, it's still quite wet, but alcohol does dry fairly quickly. It evaporates. It's fairly volatile, so it will evaporate quickly. And this is good because not only is that alcohol going to latch onto the moisture that's in that port, it's then going to flush it out along with all the dust and grit and crap that's also inside your charging port to prevent this from happening again. And once you've done that, then you can set it aside, just let it sit, let it dry out. Some people, if it's an emergency, like I told my friend last night, I said, put a hairdryer on it. Just heat it up a little bit for 5 or 10 minutes. Don't get the phone too hot, but just elevate the temperature of the port a little bit. It'll dry out completely. Then when you plug in the charger, it will work perfectly. So this is what she did. She actually had rubbing alcohol there, and it was 91%. I guess they had it in the dressing room. They didn't have a sprayer, but they took the rubbing alcohol, they repeatedly poured it into that port there, shook it out, put a hairdryer on it for a few minutes to dry it out. Then she took her iPad out, plugged it into the charger, and it was charging, and the show was saved. So that's my quick hack for fixing moisture problems inside your USB charging port on your iPad or your iPhone. Again, nothing to do with synthesizers, but it had to do with the iPad playing at the show last night, and it kind of saved the show. So I thought, you know what? I should do a quick video on this because this is something that I've done and used for years that I don't think I've actually read anywhere else. And I can explain why it works and how it works and so on. And if it helps somebody else along the way, then great. So if you like this kind of video, click like, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate when you do. And if you have any questions or comments, leave those in the comments section below. Thanks for watching.